Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Healthy Business Leader Show. Today I'm joined by Wes, who is the founder of Confid3ntial. Now, always at this stage, I'll let the guest kind of give themselves a proper introduction because I'll do a bad job of it. So Wes, do you mind giving us a bit of a background about you, what you do, and kind of what the viewers should know?
So I guess I'm Wes Henstock. I'm the founder of Confid3ntial, as you say, a brand activation agency that originally started in New York, but is now based in Nottingham. So I'm sure we'll get into that journey a little bit later on. But yeah, it's almost activating the strategy side of my business and bringing brands to life visually, verbally, into activation, into the market, really. So it's, in my terminology, it's birthing brands. It's keeping them alive and giving them the best chance of survival, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it does to me because I've been through it, so I can kind of comment on the kind of the back office side of things. But
yeah,
I think because we work with WAM first, right, which is the kind of branding workshop side, and then you guys have been helping us with the design side as well.
Yeah. So it's literally taking that. So it's all basically a way of articulating creative outputs strategically. So that's kind of our niche. We take strategies and we pull them apart, and then we find ways to activate and visualize strategy. So, decisions that are made, as you know, now you've kind of let everyone else know, are strategically made. They're not just made with emotion or empathy or whatever. Like, they're actually made with a strategy in mind, with a core audience, with a key figure, and you'll know personally, we can relate to this fictitious person that we've designed and say, would this person align to this, right? So everything's made with a strategic output in mind.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, because obviously, I've been through the process and I can comment on the kind of journey and, the way I felt before, the way I felt during, the way I felt kind of after. I think for me personally, as a small business owner, and I would assume that there's a lot of small business owners that feel the same. Kind of, you kind of start a business and you muddle your way through and you get it as big as you possibly can, and then you realise, there's no strategy behind this, and that's kind of where you guys came in with the branding and getting your team all on the same page, all moving in the same direction. And I suppose the result for me has been this feeling of kind of like cohesion of the team and understanding, okay, right, this is actually what we do. And then for me, I mean, even just over the last couple of weeks of just starting to activate it, as you say, it's giving you that kind of, every time you post something, every time you create something, every time you talk about something, every time you create, a new product or program, does this align with the brand and kind of, how we should be working? So for me, it's been transformational, and I know you've got tons of stories. So let's move into your personal journey, because you mentioned New York there a second ago, very briefly. So, do you want to tell us a bit about, your journey from kind of where you started and where you went to and kind of where you are now? That'd be great.
It's a short show, right? I mean, there's a long story, and you know it. So, but no, I think to try to fast track it, it's interesting, like where I've landed and what I've become. Really, I think without sounding arrogant, but I kind of fell into New York. I have this interesting angle that every decision that's been pinnacle of my life and my career has been made by a woman. And that sounds really obvious, but odd. But yeah, it started out as at school, at university, whoever's listening, me wanting to get into uni to basically please my mum in a cap and gown. Or her dream was basically to have me in a cap and gown, and she always wanted that photo. I never really wanted to go to uni. I struggled at school. I've always been creative minded. So I had a great affection to my design, my technology, my art teachers, but anything academic I just resented and hated completely, and I didn't know why. And I found out later when I got to uni that I actually had dyslexia, but where I grew up in my county didn't actually screen for it at that age. So I went through basically all my teen years not knowing that I had this, I don't want to call it a disability, a superpower, right? I didn't know I had it. So what got me into uni to kind of make this dream come true, where my journey started, was I was basically a photography student at that time, doing a fine arts kind of a crash course into uni just to get a BTEC honours or whatever. And I always used to hang around the fashion lab because I knew all the girls would be there. no joke. So I just like mull around at lunchtime, and obviously you're trying to, like, as a young kid, 16, you know, you're trying to find angles into girls, right? And so I used to go and sit in this, always the knitting class. I used to hang around at lunch, so I would like pop in at lunch, and before you know it, I'm trying to hit on these girls and that, but I'm starting to pick up the tools, right, and just mess around on a knitting machine, like an old like flatbed. And just one time, I'd been doing this for weeks, obviously, and this one time, this old lady called Geraldine walked through, who I didn't know, but she was the facilitator of the course, and she was watching me on this knitting machine, and she literally pulled me aside. She's like, I know your real reason why you're here, but genuinely, like, I've never seen anyone so talented on a knitting machine, like, you know, wow, at this age. And I was like, whatever, like, you know, you janking my chain, whatever. And she's like, no, like, I believe there's something in you. Like, if you want to put your work, or, you know, work on a collection, put it in the show, you've got 6 weeks to do it. Think about it. And that's like, she walked off, and it was almost like this tap on the shoulder, like, wake up, smother coffee, right? So I thought about it, came back, and I did. I went back in, I said, right, how do I do this? I've never touched anything to do with knitting, fashion, sewing, anything in my life. I've always had an admiration for fashion, clothing, style. And then, in 6 weeks, I put this collection together, which was Gundam infused knitwear. So cyber, robot knitting. I was knitting with latex. I was weaving in random threads, fabrics. I got aluminium in there, like puffer coats, mad shit anyway. And in the crowd was the dean of Nottingham Trent University, and she pulled me aside after, and she's like, I want to offer you a place. And I was like, what? You know, like, she's like, yeah, I want to offer you a place. There's 2 universities in the country that offer this as a degree, knitwear as a degree. You know, us in Kingston, like, the place is yours. There's 30 people on the course, you can have one. So I got in, right? So then this is where I fast tracked through the rest. I just wanted to lay this up. So then I weaved in and out of university, got through my first year, always struggled with writing. I remember I got screened, and I ended up getting a laptop and realizing I had dyslexia. So then you have more time to write. My creative, you know, it answered a lot of questions for me, really. But I had a run-in with my tutor. My dad always told me, I come from a creative family, my dad always told me, like, when you're at uni, at school, like, that's your time to be liberal, that's your time to experiment, because once you get into the real world, you're going to be met with parameters, you know, you're going to have to work to tighter briefs, so just go and enjoy it, right? And my dad was a pot thrower. He used to, you know, like in Ghost, you know, like, he was a pot thrower. Okay. Not anymore, but that was his hobby. And so I used to go home and, like, talk to him about it, and he'd be like, yeah, do this thing, you know, we'd have crazy conversations about knitting. There's a bigger story behind that when I told him I was doing knitting, and that was kind of a Billy Elliot story, but we won't go there. I was having this running because I was getting briefs, and she was trying to tell me to knit jumpers and sweaters, and I wanted to do wall hangings, and I wanted to knit with wire, and I wanted to create. I always had this mad admiration with graffiti, which leads into my career, and I wanted to create graffiti through, like, jacquard on wall hangings and mad stuff like that. And I kept doing the brief with my take on it, and she basically just degraded me because I didn't do a jumper. Right. So just to piss her off, I decided to go for this. I decided to go to this internship interview that was in New York, right, working for a company called American Eagle. And I remember to this day, this girl called Molly Gamble interviewed me. I was late. It was snowing. I had trouble getting in. It was like everything was against me, but I made it and interviewed with like 15 minutes instead of 45. And lo and behold, I got the role. I got the placement. So this was been in like the year before. So the year later is when I was going. So I went out in January of 2000, and 6 weeks into my role as an intern, this guy called Joe DeVersa comes out and basically says we can't carry on internship programs anymore. There's been some internal conflict. So I was left on my Jack Jones in New York with a H1 visa. And luckily at the time, this guy called Frank Osman and a few other people, Vicky Lambourne, pulled me aside and was like, let's just try and keep you on as a freelancer. So they did. So they had me on as a freelancer. And I remember sitting down and they were, again, another girl, Vicky Lambourne, was like, okay, what do you want to earn? And I was like, I don't know, like $7 an hour or whatever. And she was like, you know, $7 is a coffee, right? And I was like, all right. So she literally wrote my hours what I
Wow.
wanted to earn on this paper. I didn't even see it. She just said, you're earning this, right? Boom, put it in, end up freelancing. That started my New York life, right? So I then flipped from there. I worked for Levi Kids. So I found this niche in kids wear, weirdly. So I started working for Levi Kids. I went into, my first big job was helping Puma North America relaunch in children's wear. So that led me through my fashion, and then, you know, fast forward through it, I meet the hip hop side of my life at that point. So I started working in like urban streetwear. I worked for Rockaware, I worked for, you know, Def Jam, Russell Simmons. I've worked for academics. You know, I worked my way through. Then I came into contact with Damon John. He was a massive impact in my life. I probably worked for him for, you know, I still talk to him to this day on and off. I'm hoping to see him in a few weeks when I go back out. But he was the massive inspiration. That's where brand really started getting understanding of what branding was about. Didn't really activate on it, didn't do anything with it. I was still in clothing, but I saw how brands were being born. He was becoming more, you know, back into the limelight on Shark Tank, and he was bringing in brands, and we were working on, you know, getting an idea of each brand that he worked on, whether it be Sweet Potato Pie Man or somebody else, or, you know, whoever, Bomber. And then I met another girl, she was working in an ad agency, an Icelandic ad agency called Skags. And that brought me closer to what marketing and advertising was all about. And again, learning more about brand. I started working with her on a few projects. We worked, you know, for PepsiCo, and did a green label art event and things like this. We worked on a store in Miami called ATC. And then I really got my teeth into it. And I'd transitioned from fashion into marketing and advertising. So then I start my way, and I work my way through. You know, I'm trying to do some branding work, some marketing work, but I'm still in fashion. I'm working with DKNY Kids at the time, and we got called in on one lunch and basically said, today's your last day, tomorrow's your last paycheck, and they closed my whole division down, right, of children's wear. So I'm left like on my own with like 4 or 5 guys. And we basically just loaded up a car with anything we could take, because we wouldn't get any redundancy or anything. And we had a bunch of stuff, including computers. And we rode up into my apartment, all got drunk or whatever. And then the next day I was like, right, what do I do now? So I decided to use what I had and start up Confid3ntial. That's literally how it started. And my idea was, I'll be the face of the brand. I know a lot of people now in marketing and advertising. I've got into that network. I'll just be the face, and then we'll act like we're a bigger agency. I would call on people I know in my little network, and then go back out and start this contract model, really, this hybrid, which now is okay. I run my business exactly the same way now, and I think after COVID it's working. So I'm with this girl, and I move into branding. So I used to work in a bar as well outside, and I just got asked one night, one Sunday afternoon, you know, what am I doing on Tuesday, by this guy. And I literally walked in his office, and this was a company called SME, a guy called Paul Seward, and he was like, I want to help you back in, and I want to offer you the job as a creative director. But I was in this agency then called SME, which was a really big, you know, I guess industry known branding agency, which mainly worked in sports. So we were then quickly fast-tracked into working on the Miami Marlins, working with David Beckham, working with the Yankees. You know, I was in brand, in my element, NASCAR, you name it, anybody in sports. That started moving me into rooms, and I got really inspired by this guy called Ed O'Hara, who's like the branding guru in the sports world. So I was learning a lot from him. And then obviously I got the call, which changed my life again. So I got a call on one Sunday night, and it was you know, my dad telling me that my mum wasn't in a good place and I had to come home. So again, a girl impacts me again. I come back, I wrap up 12 years of New York in 2 weeks, pack everything up, move back to England. I'd been back once since in 2005. I've been back once in 12 years. So long time, big shock, came back home. Everything was all right. There was another girl involved in my life at the same time. So a girl that I'm now with, we were having long distance relationships in America. She was this side of the pond, I was that side. All this complicated, like a whirlwind romance love story in a movie, ended in a bad way. But I was back here. My mum was back to full health. I was then freelancing out of a kitchen in Muswell Hill because I couldn't find work for like 2 years. I was thinking like, I've worked in New York for 12 years. I'll roll into a job here. And couldn't find work for 2 years. So I was still working out of New York, out of LA, out of a kitchen in Muswell Hill. it was a roller coaster. And then I met these guys that want to do a style in fashion, and I had to create a brand. So I created this brand which moved me up to Leicester, and then from there, I started my brand journey again. But I realised I'd never worked in the UK, so I had to kind of take a few steps back to understand how the industry worked. It's very different to New York. I'm not saying New York's madman, but it's very dog eat dog. Like, you can get fired on the spot. I've seen it happen numerous times. That brown box and packing your stuff is real. Like, security just lifts you up and you go and you get your stuff sent to you. Like, that's how serious it is out there. But out here, it's very different. There's HR, there's managing, there's all this other stuff I'd never learned of. And I'm not saying I'm an evil boss or I shout or yell, but there's a very different way to managing people in America, especially in New York, than there is over here. So I decided to take a step back. I did some consulting for a company called soap.com. Met this guy called Chris Bale, who's really nice, and a girl called Hilary Leem, who I've just done work with again, a lady. They kind of gave me my break and brought me into this bathroom brand, and I was behind the rebrand of this bathroom entity. And I got to flex my muscles, right? I got to kind of put Wes back into the UK, and I did, and it doubled its earnings, its profit in 3 years. We sponsored the national weather. We were on TV. We did a Christmas TV ad. We'd charioted this brand. We'd moved it so far. And as part of that, I was doing a lot of like work on myself, people management, emotional intelligence, which I use now. I've used it with you guys, and that was part of my deal. Like, I'll come in and work with you from consultancy into full time. I ended up spending 3 years there. It was never meant to be that, But part of this journey was me learning myself, me learning the industry, learning the UK way of doing things. Then I moved into marketing for a high net worth luxury brand company, and then right before the pandemic, I had another conversation with my dad, and he was like, what are you going to do now? Like, you can't go any further up than this MD, in your current position. You can't go any higher. What are you going to do? And my dad had helped me start Confidential in the US. Like, we actually went to the city hall and we registered the business together. And he's like, just start Confidential again. Like, So I did. Good conversation with my dad. And rolled into January, went to my boss at the time. They kind of knew it was coming. They were like, we were so shocked you'd not done this before. Like, I've been with them for about nearly 2 years. And so, down tools. And I thought, right, I'm going to get Confidential off the ground. I'm going to try and use the same model. And that was in the January. And then obviously in the March, pandemic hit. And that just fast tracked everything after that. Like, I had the model set up. I knew people in New York. I knew people here. People were on furlough. I was taking them out of furlough to bring them on a team. And we literally worked right the way through the pandemic. To this day, it's been crazy. We've had, additions. We brought other people in. We've got a core team, I think and my wingman is John. That's kind of the two of us, and everyone else is people that we pull in when we need. But that's kind of been my journey. Like, I've cut a lot out, but there's a big chunk of that is how I'm back in the UK. Now I'm back with the girl that we had a breakup with. I've got 2 kids. I've got a house. I've got a business. And I'm back in Nottingham, so I've kind of done full circle, which is you know what I mean.
What a journey, man! Like, there's a lot in there. There's a lot to unpack. Is there a kind of a theme that I could pick up? And maybe you're aware of this anyway, but there's been people along your journey that have seen like amazing talent in you, and then they've picked up and given opportunity. Would that be an observation?
Yeah, I would say that. I'm a big networker. Anyone you speak to, the more you know me. You've known me for a while now. I'm a networker. I like to get into a room, and I'm quite weirdly, I'm like an introvert, or this new term, right? I'm an introverted extrovert, where I actually struggle, but I know what I can deliver, what I can give is valuable. So I put myself in situations to grow networks, to grow rooms, to get myself out there. And I think it's that, like you said, that allows people to see the real me. And the real me is kind of what you get. I don't really hide too much. I'm heart's on my sleeve 90% of the time, 99% of the time. And I think that vulnerability, and I've said it in numerous other talks, like, vulnerability is what's got me there. And I think showing I'm vulnerable shows the real me, shows my real talent, and then people see past that and give me that chance, right? Give me that, that break. And it's worked, and I'm really, appreciative of people that's led me on this journey, and I still talk to them to this day. I still look back, on people that's inspired me. Another guy called Stern Rock, he was my boss at Academics, which is a clothing brand in the urban world. I don't think it ever made the UK. he leveraged me massively, like in my career, you know, and he's now living out in Hong Kong. He's an artist, and we still check in, you know, and that's going back 20 years, you know. It's just important for me to keep those relationships, you know, and you never know what's going to come back.
Yeah, and you know, we haven't known each other for a short time, but it sounds like you're very loyal. Once you've kind of built that connection, you know, I've experienced it myself, you know, just in the small time we've known each other. But yeah, you're kind of willing to pass that forward as well, right?
Yeah, I think it's worth it. Like, over delivery is something that I've preached all my life, right? And my business coach will probably listen to this and he'll kick me when he sees me next. But over delivery is the thing. Like, loyalty is one thing, and my missus gets so annoyed at me because anywhere I go, she knows where we're going to go. Right? If I like a bar or I like a barman, I'll go just because I'm loyal to that person, right? And I'm loyal to that. In cities, places, in where I live. But I like giving back, and I think giving back is the way that I enjoy life, and I succeed through others. And that's why, you know, getting into level C and the things I'm doing with Numia and Andy Starr and giving back's like the huge part of where I want to land. Right? I want to land in giving my journey and my education and my knowledge back to people, because that needs to live on. You know what I mean?
Is that kind of where you see yourself going more into, you know, that kind of mentorship, that side of things? That's
my landing. That's where I want to go. I've started planting seeds now. Like I said, I've got a little mentorship program which started out on this strategy I had of giving 20% of my work week away for free. So I was helping people through, and I've got about 7 or 8 people now out into society doing things, learning from me, committing to them weekly, monthly. And then, you know, I decided, right, I'm gonna try and make this work as a model. So I want to cap it at 5. I've got like a pay-as-you-go prepaid you know, way of working, where my mentees can use me whenever, however they want. They just buy my time basically, and then they can pick my brains in whatever it needs be, if it's frameworks, if it's facilitation, if it's guidance, support. I think the best examples I have is when I've actually got a real time project happening with them, and I'm helping them along the way, right? So I'm kind of like their little wingman in the background, just keeping up. I need help on the proposal, I need help on this, I need a framework for this, I need to set up for my workshop, what should I do? Like, that's working really well, because I'm kind of like that little, like I said, little wingman, little like Jiminy Cricket, just making sure that everything's all right. Do you know what I mean? And it works for me, definitely.
That's powerful though. I think, you know, if there's more people doing that, it would make, I mean, I can only comment on my industry. It doesn't really exist within this industry, not that I've seen anyway, but I made a conscious effort to, because I remember what it was like when you're just starting out and you're 20 years of age and you haven't got a clue, and you're kind of looking down the barrel and going, where do I even start with this, right? I think having someone going, why don't you just kind of focus on this and try this, right, is helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just a bit of guidance, parameters. I think that's what I've always needed. And these people like Damon John, like Carl Wagner, like, you know, Ed O'Hara, they've given me this parameter and almost given me a chance to like pick and take advice, right? It wasn't given to me, but there was almost like I was presented an opportunity to say, right, I'm here. It was never verbally discussed, but like, I'm here, I'm in front of you, use me, you know what I mean? And like with D and whatever, I would go in and ask for stuff, and we'd work on, and we had a weird relationship, like we still do, which I love him, but you know, it was never like he'd ask me to do something and I'd never talk about money ever. And when I worked for him as an employee, definitely, but as our relationship went on, I'd pick up side work from him, and you know, we'd never talk about money. Like, he'd like, Shoes, you know, I've got this brief for you. That was my nickname from him, and I'd do it, and I'd never talk about cash, and I'd just see some money appear in my account. Like, it was just because we had this relationship, this give and take, right? I would over deliver, I would do whatever he wanted, and he respected me and gave me that back. You know what I mean? And it goes back to loyalty and this opportunity to use these people around you as inspiration and as a driver to create these parameters that you need to live in, and you can just, as long as you keep going in the right direction and you stay in line. It's a bit like what I'm teaching you with brand. Like, we know where we're going, we just have to stay in these parameters. These are your guidelines, this is how we talk, this is how we look. We just keep aiming that way. We can only go in the right way, right? And a little parallel there, I've never thought of that way. But
I mean, that concept was kind of totally new to me when I remember going on that chemistry call with you know, with the WAM guys, you guys, and you kept using the word collaboration, which kind of stuck with me, because I don't know. I've never been in a business situation where the word collaboration was being used. It was more like a transactional thing. For example, you give me this amount of money, I'll do this job for you. Yeah. Whereas it felt when we went through that process, I know in hindsight it's really important, that feeling of collaboration, and you said them guidelines just kind of keeping you moving towards a goal. Yeah. And there were moments in that brand workshop where you kind of think, this is tough, right? Yeah. But that kind of feeling of always you guys putting us in the right direction kind of keeps you moving forward. Yeah. Just trusting the process, right?
Yeah, and that comes with experience, like running rooms. You know that if I didn't do that, or me and Martin and Ash didn't do that, you'd just be left. You just get that to that moment, that awkward moment, and everyone gets to where do I go now? What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to answer this. I don't know. And you just hit a brick wall, and then you get this awkward silence in a room. And weirdly, I've witnessed this. I've witnessed this in my career, and I've learned from that. And you have to just almost look for the little openings, look for the little nuances, and just kick it. It's like kicking a can around, down the street. You roll it and it gets some momentum and it stops, and you kick it again, and eventually you keep it moving. But you just have to look for those opportunities, and again, that comes with skill. That comes with, like I said, I've been doing brand now since 2008, and just being in rooms, knowing people, knowing how they work, I think is key. That's why I do the psychometric test review, and I always get these weird looks like, why are you doing this with me? But if I understand how you work and I understand how to get the best out of you, then I know how to approach you and how to talk to you and how to encourage you, right? And again, it's a skill. It's a skill that you learn, and it's a tool that you have to use, right? And you can't abuse it, but you have to definitely use it in the right way.
I can't see AI taking this job over anytime soon, can you?
Yeah, I've done a few little tests on creative outputs on these platforms, logo creators or whatever, and I always say to John, "We're safe, John. Like we're safe." I've just seen the output. We're safe. We're safe.
Yeah, we chatted about obviously with what we did with the True Fitness, but that empathy and understanding of the human psyche, the human body. It's just you can't. That takes years to perfect that skill, right?
It's reactive as well. Like it's you can use the word empathy in so many different ways and react to it in so many different ways based on a scenario.
Yeah.
And I think obviously that's where AI is lacking. But it's interesting seeing Elon bringing out a platform that's got a personality. Like, so he wants that rebel. He wants it to be sarcastic. So that, I think that's interesting how he's introduced a personality trait now into an AI platform, which is, as you know now, is going to deter or attract a certain audience, right? Because of how it's set up. Interesting how he's done that, by the way.
I kind of see there's kind of like there seems to be two camps. There's some people, for example, I've got some friends that have started AI companies, right? And they're so embedded in that kind of direction. I feel like me personally, I want to understand it. I want to be able to use it.
Yeah.
But that's never going to replace kind of the high level of service and the results that we get as a human company, right?
Yeah, and I'm exactly the same way. And you'll know, you've worked with us, you've seen how we use it, and we couldn't deny it. We had a conscious effort conversation, like how do we introduce it into our daily lives, because we can't avoid it. And as strategists, we need to think about how we literally have to strategize on ourselves, like how can we use this and how can we better ourselves from it. So you're right. I think it's you've got to know when and how to use it at the right time. I think is the way to go, for sure.
You also got the other side of it, right? Which is, and again, I know as you do, lots of business owners, and they're kind of just fobbing it off as just something that's not that important. I think you need to be clued up with it and understand where can I utilize this in my business to speed things up. I mean, for example, administration, right? Processes, systems. Yeah. Why would you get a person to do that when it can be done by that? But then when it comes to customer facing, as we've had a conversation about, it's a dangerous place to be, because that is just representing your brand, right? And it could say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing.
You're putting that destiny in that piece of technology.
Yeah.
But again, again, we can't avoid it, and I worry about the people and the business owners that say like, "Oh, it's going to be a fad," and it's not. It's around us. It's going to happen. I always relate back to any Bjorn movie. Like if we look at Bjorn movies, anything that's happened in the Bjorn movie pretty much comes into society later. And I don't know if it was ever pre-written that way or technology was introduced because they knew it was going to come and we were kind of tampering the audience or the world ready for it, but odd things like facial recognition and everything that's been in a Bjorn has actually happened, and we can't avoid it, man. Like, we've got to live with it. It's going to be our lives, and that's it. And it's clever people now that's utilizing it as a positive. Like, if you look at the recent Fiverr campaigns about I don't know if you've seen it, but just check it on LinkedIn, you'll find it. But they're basically using copy to basically say, like, AI changed my life, right, or ruined my life, or whatever that changed my life thing is, and then the small print is for good. And they're trying to now promote creatives that are using AI as a tool, because they've realized that rather than avoid it, liberate it, let's leverage from it. But yeah, you're right. I think it's finding how to use it and what to use it for to leverage you, because it'll make you better. It will do. I just don't think we can abuse it and try and use it to replace things, like you said, that are human generated, because that's the key. And I think we've chatted about how Google's now on the right path to find human created content and not AI created content, and they're going to start pushing that because it's more important, right? It's more valuable because it's real. So there's already a step ahead that's rebelling against it, right?
It does worry me that kind of some people are just becoming very lazy and they'll never actually type anything ever again in their whole life. You've kind of gone from pen and paper to writing beautiful letters and drawing pictures to kind of not doing very much, which worries me. I've got young kids like you, and my kind of thought is, like, how do you inform your child so they understand it, but also make sure they kind of, we always think about our childhoods, right? And we lived through a phase where that stuff didn't exist, but it'd be nice just to kind of keep them a little bit in tune with the fact, that creativity you've got inside of you, that's the important stuff, right? So it leads me on to really an obvious question, right? Because you're very much in the brand and design space. Probably a difficult question, but the next 5 to 10 years within the creative design space, branding, how do you think AI will change the game? I know it started to already, but where do you kind of see that leading in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think it's happening already. Like, even in my space, there's a guy called Prince Rumi that started a platform which is an AI driven strategy platform, which you prompt it and it helps you through a strategy. So it's already in our lives, it's already there, whether it's made it mainstream or not. I think you're going to start seeing, it's like, it's system thinking now. I think it's going to replace systems. We're going to be able to utilize it to better ways, life scenarios. I think how we can utilize it in my world will be, imagine we're doing tone of voice, but imagine if I can create you a prompt or something that allows you, to talk a certain way, you get me? Like, I think that's where we can start utilize it in our world. But I think it's, it's in with us. I think it's going to start impacting our lives. I think just how having conversations with you and knowing how we could use AI to inform other technology of, like, how to train, how to influence, I guess, I'm guessing with you it'd be machines or things like that. You could get AI to start creating workouts for machines based on input, based on an app, based on habits, whatever it may be. I think it's going to be more of an information tool that's going to tell other tools to do stuff. You know what I mean? It's like a bridge between humans and tech. I think it is where it should sit in my mind. But yeah, it's doing all sorts of stuff in it. Just the way that I do a bit of work in quantum. So in quantum, there's that's a really obscure parallel, but quantum does mad stuff like AI does, right? And it has a brain. It's basically a giant brain. And so there's ways that quantum is coming in, and if we get AI and quantum kind of working together, that gets quite scary. I think that's, is that then moving into Terminator, into
Wow.
And we put AI.
It's taking a funny turn, this conversation.
Yeah, you put AI brains into robots, right? Because I know that's happening. I know it's happening. And
it's happening.
You get a robot to start thinking and start responding and reacting like real time using AI. Then who knows what's going to happen, right? It's crazy.
Worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So let's pivot the conversation then, because I want to talk a bit more about your journey and I know you're obviously busy with your agency and your collaboration work. I know you've got little ones to look after. I know for you as a business leader, essentially, you're quite short on time. Do you want to have a bit of a conversation around kind of the tools that you use to keep yourself moving forward from a health perspective, keep yourself, in a decent way, keep yourself kind of healthy in your mind sharp? What kind of tools do you use, Wes?
I use obvious things like my Apple Watch. I try to stand up a lot. I use my timer. I use my Alexa to remind me to do stuff, to get up, walk around. Not so much really like tools, but there's definitely I like health. Like supplements, things like that. I'm very into. I'm very conscious of liquid intake. Taking NADs and now just trying to keep my body in a place where I know, as much as I've tried to, as much as you tried to and Truth tried to, because we've been through this program together, like I think you're gonna hate me and you're gonna punch me through the screen, but I don't have the time for it. Like, and I juggle so much, and me, I'm coming into my cocktail hour, right? I'm coming into my final quarter of my life where I need to make this work. So turning into Puff Daddy, where Puff Daddy doesn't sleep. I'm at that stage, right, where I just need to give it everything. So lack of sleep, late nights, global clients, it all impacts my sleep, my screen time. So I'm trying to like reduce, remove, step away. I had a dog, which helped, but then I obviously got an injury now, so I can't do it. But the dog helped get me out. And I just started building habits in. I'm very habit led. Like, it comes with loyalty, like you picked up on earlier. As soon as I get into something and I'm loyal to it, it'll become part of my life. And supplements are a big thing, liquids are a big thing. Getting out as much as I can with the boys. They play a lot of football. There's not so much tools, but it's habits that are the thing for me, for sure.
I think you've hit on a big one there, which is walking. I know you've got your injury at the moment, but I know you're just kind of walking in the morning. I think for really, really busy people, walking is an understated kind of
brilliant
activity that's going to keep you moving. I mean, from a mental health perspective, getting up, I know you're an early bird anyway, aren't you? You're up and about. So getting up and out in the morning, fresh air is massive. And I know you felt the benefits for that yourself as well, right?
It was massively, like, just having a puppy, like I said, being out like 5 minutes from a field in the middle of a big green belt behind me here, luckily. And like you say, just being in that middle of that field at 4:30 in the morning with the dew and watching the mist, and
lovely.
It was wicked, mate. And just doing a half an hour, 45-minute walk with the pooch. It totally changed my mindset, and you're definitely right in that. And I saw the change instantly. You know what I mean?
You need the headlamp, right? 4:30 in the morning now.
No, it was in the summer, so I was just getting the early rise. I think now, obviously, I would definitely need the headlamp, torch, whatever.
How's your leg anyway? Is it fixed up now?
Yeah, we're getting there. I think I've got 3 weeks left. I don't want to get too gruesome, but I used to be able to put my finger in between the Achilles, but now it's kind of just a little chamfer. So I know mentally it's actually working. I was doubting it for a long time, thinking this is not going to happen. But the last 4 weeks have changed it a lot. And I got talking about supplements. I went to see a specialist who works for Leicester Tigers, and I had an assessment on it. And he was basically saying, right, we can do all the things externally, but what we need to do is fix this internally as well. So he gave me this like supplement routine, man. It was like, I have to take like 6 things every day. It's crazy. I'd never even heard of these things. And he's like, you need to take this. Like,
right. What are they? Can you remember the names?
I've got them here, mate, if you don't mind me stepping over. But one of them's collagen.
Yeah, collagen.
So collagen, marine collagen is good for tendon thing. Arginine. I don't know what
arginine,
that is. Yeah. Bromelain, marine collagen, and then he specifically said vitamin C and rosehip. So I've got that on top of kind of like my daily kind of NAD stuff and my TMC.
It's helping you to heal that joint up, isn't it?
Yeah, internally. And weirdly, I'm not just saying this, like ever since he told me that, which was probably about 6 weeks ago, I don't know if this is fate, but it started coinciding with me seeing the dent getting. It was weird, but
brilliant.
Fair play to him, man. Like helped me out a lot, really. And he obviously he works on rugby players 24/7, so
yeah, they're always broken.
They get battered. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're on supplements all the time, just fixing their body up.
100. Yeah, that's really helped, and I was really like blown away by the level of detail this guy went into. You know, just understanding how our bodies work, how our tendons work. You know, it was crazy.
Yeah, and again, that's something AI can't do because you know he's giving something specific there, which he's tried on a human before that's worked, and also your weight, your height, you know, your activity level. He knows what to give you. So that's an expertise. The thing that worries me that I do hear people kind of creating protocols from AI, and again, it's not going to take into consideration so many different aspects of you. Like he knows about your injury, how you did it, specifically what you're looking to do, and it's not kind of like it's not a 1 + 1 = 2 situation. There's a lot of moving parts to that.
Yeah, you're right. I think the one thing you've hit on there is he asked me my objective, right? And he said, what do you want to do? And I was like, oh, well, I want to go back to competing again. And he said, well, that's going to be tough because you're always going to have that weakness, but we can build it up in a certain way that can get you back out faster, right? And even just little things saying like, we can't neglect your right leg. We can't neglect what's happening to that and how this injury is impacting the right hand side of your body, right? And he's like, if we keep that in peak condition, then when you're out of this cast, it'll get you back moving quicker, right? And it will get you back moving with the boys. And I gave him the same story as you. It was weird. Like, I just want to be back with my kids. Like, my little boy's accelerating at football and playing big teams, and he's only 7. I want to get out there with him. I want to, I'm that dad now that rocks up at Forest or whatever on crutches, and every parent knows me, just because I'm that guy on crutches. I'm that guy. It's a bit mentally challenging, I think, as I've said to you, but we're through that now, I think.
I think you hit on a great point then. It's like that, being able to play with your kids. I mean, if you have got young kids, I mean, obviously you've got an injury, but many of the kind of people that we work with, they're similar age to you, and them playing football with their kid is just not possible because they're out of shape, they're overweight, the condition's so bad. I mean, for me, my son plays football, he's 6 as well. It's like playing football with a whippet. Like the way they change direction, their centre of gravity is just crazy. So, I mean, I'm quite fit, right? And for me to keep up with them is difficult. If you're trying to do that as a 37-year-old, 41-year-old, 42-year-old that's 20 kilos overweight, it's just not going to happen. So it's just really interesting you hit on that point because, playing with your kids is so important because they're only young for a little while, right?
Yeah, that's a goal, right? That's why we started this conversation 12 months ago. And in hindsight, I can say in front of all the listeners, so you can verbally bully me, but my quote was like, I just don't want to go out on a football pitch and break myself.
He's recorded,
And 12 months later, what did I do? But my fear was like not being able to run around with the boys. My fear was like feeling good about myself, making sure my missus fancies me, like all these weird emotional things that I was hitting when I got to like 44, and I was just like, I want her to fancy me. Like I want to make sure I'm in tip-top condition. I want to make sure, like, as a dad, like I look like I'm fit and I know I'm doing against other dads. Like all these weird, like, emotional things hit me, and that is literally why I wanted to try and change my life. And don't get me wrong, we didn't last because I couldn't find I was accountable for that and I couldn't make it work. But you've impacted me in a way where I do think about things now. And when I was back fit, I'd be like, I timed myself on a lot of stuff. That's what I've started doing. I started challenging myself. And it might not seem anything, but I was having a conversation with Ash about it. Like, challenge everything you do. Like, when I get in the shower, like, I know Protect Your Neck's like 7 minutes and 36 seconds long. And I want to shower in 7 minutes. And I put it on, and I'm like, play it, and then I'm in and out. And then if I'm going up and downstairs, I'll be like, right, I'm going to go up and downstairs 13, 15 times. I'm going to time myself, right? And just doing stuff like that when I'm in and around, just trying to do the littlest of bits to keep myself fit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sounds odd, but I don't know. Probably.
No, it's great. It's just those tactics.
Like bonkers, mate. But
it's them tactics, only if you've not genuinely got no time. I mean, we say it to our clients. If you're going to commute into work every day, leave 10 minutes earlier. Just walk a bit further, or go up the stairs rather than go up the escalator. You're doing it every day anyway, so just take 10 more seconds. And I
was conscious of that, and that's just talking to you and your team. Like, if I have to nip to the shop, because I'm like 10, I'm working late and we've got no food in, the kids are getting bed at 8 and I'm like, we've got no food, right? So it's like, let's just walk to the shop rather than just drive because it's 5 minutes. Let's take 15 minutes and walk.
Yeah.
Take a shopping bag. And I know it's weird little things, but that's what I started changing. And now it's common, it's common nature.
Compounds, right?
Yeah, definitely. It all adds up without a doubt. Marginal gains, as Allardyce would say, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Wes, that was fantastic, man. I really enjoyed that chat. We're up to kind of 45 minutes now, so I'd like to kind of stop it there. But where can people check you out? Where can they, check out?
I'm normally roaming around LinkedIn quite a lot. I think if you hashtag brand advisory lyrics or you search my name, you'll see me and the way I kind of talk about brand through verse. Quite niche in that. Obviously, we've not touched upon that, but yeah, that's where I am right now. Confid3ntial.com with a free, but mainly Wes Henstock on LinkedIn or weshenstock.com. You'll find me, and you can get to know a little bit more about me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anyone watching this as part of my audience that wants to learn about brand, Wes and his team are incredible. So do please reach out. Because
I agree. Just jump in my inbox. I think you've worked out on this call. I'm quite loyal and open to getting to know people.
Yeah.
If you want 15 minutes of my time, there's a link in my bio. Just drop in and let's just have a chat.
You're not the guy that's got the profile that you have to have an email to connect with to chat to, no?
Definitely definitely not that guy.
Hate those guys.
All right, mate. Thanks for your time.
Brilliant. Thank you, Wes. Appreciate your time, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.